Welcome to the Oswego Alumni Podcast. I'm your host, Dee Perkins. Today's guest is someone who has dedicated his life to service, not just through his career, but through the way he continues to show up for his family, his community, and those who need support the most. After a 24-year career with the fire department of the city of New York, rising through the ranks to Battalion Chief, Marty Currid's now entering a new chapter. His journey has been shaped by leadership, lifelong learning, and profound personal loss. In the face of that loss, Marty's turned grief into purpose by founding the Danielle Currid Foundation, helping young women pursue education and opportunity. Marty, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you
About
for being
time.
with us. Yeah,
About time. I showed up finally.
that took too long,
Yeah,
right?
it did.
You're
It
not
did.
that guy.
And I am not that guy, but
You don't
apparently I
want to,
was.
yeah, you don't want to hear all the accolades, do you?
Sorry.
All right. So for listeners meeting you the first time, can you introduce yourself and share where you are in life right now? What is your main pursuit?
Okay. So I'm Marty Currid. I've recently retired from the FDNY. Uh, and I am Mr. Mom right now. My main purpose right now is single dad. Got a 9 and 10 year old, 9 year old son, Marty the fourth. And I got a 10 year old daughter, Whitney, 10 going on 30. And she's and you know they're my focus on everything is raising the kids, and raising is the key word. I'm like, get them to adulthood, you know. Get them to adulthood the right
You're
way.
well, with your daughter, you're almost there. So,
Oh man, I can't believe she's gonna be 11 soon. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
is she giving you the dad and the roll of the eyes thing?
The rolling of the eyes. Yes, mommy's speaking through her. Um,
Don't embarrass me, dad.
yeah, yes, she's definitely at that. And I get it. And I get it too. I don't embarrass. Even though I do coach her. You know, I
Uh-huh.
mean, I coach her friends, but I take into account that's my little girl down there, and like daddy can't embarrass her.
Very good. Hey,
Yeah,
so let's go backwards. Can you tell us
sure.
you're a graduate from Oswego 2001?
2001. Yes.
2001. Prior to that, you were living in Westchester area?
No, I was born and raised in Monroe, New York.
Oh,
Okay, which
okay.
is in Orange County. It's about, say, an hour north of New York City.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and it was typical 80s, 90s suburb kid. You know, best I got to get both decades. You know, I'm lucky with that. You know, and people born around in 78 around there know exactly what I'm talking about. So,
Oh, big swing from the
yeah,
80s. I mean, for
yeah.
me, music, I'm always thinking
Oh,
music.
100%. A
You go,
100%.
you go from Flock of Seagulls to
Yes.
grunge.
Yes. Right. Exactly. And they were great. I like them
Yeah.
all.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. All of them are
A
great. So
hundred, 100%. I know
your
exactly what you're talking about.
your music taste must be wide.
It's wide. It's very wide. Yeah. I would sit there and say, I went, yeah, and then my older brother, who's 10 years older than me. So I'm driving around with him. And then I'm typical to my dad's golden oldies. You know what I mean? Which is the 90s are golden oldies to us now, I guess.
I know. I'm so afraid to find out what the golden oldies are right now. I
Right? I
really
haven't,
am.
yeah, yeah, right. When you listen to classic rock and they're playing, grunge, you're like, that's not classic.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Boston, Foreigner.
absolutely. Yeah.
So are they the golden oldies?
Yeah, not my dad. Yeah, I mean, I could probably say that, maybe going back to some even 70s Van Halen, maybe as an Aerosmith, right? I mean, people forget that's when they started, you know what I mean?
I
Those
know,
guys.
but when I think of golden oldies, I think of the Temptations and the Four
Oh,
Tops.
exactly. That's still where I go. That's still where I go. So as my father driving around my father. He had one tape in there. He didn't know how to get it out. Just replayed over and over again.
So when did you decide that you wanted to go to Oswego, and how did that come about?
It was, I a lot of people I knew were going, and it was just that. I mean, I was, I didn't have a drive. It wasn't like an academic drive I had. I didn't get that till late. I was a late bloomer and everything. I was a late bloomer and everything. But I had a lot of friends going and went, and it was so that was comfortable and close friends. Guys I played football with since I was a kid. A little kid. I was a kid then too, but you know what I mean. And we went up, and I still remember for some, in life sometimes you remember things you don't. Wait, why do I remember that and not this? I remember my first day like it was yesterday. You know, and it's being like, oh my, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I can't believe they let me go here by myself.
Okay, okay, give me a little more. What was your dorm and what were you thinking about for major?
Okay, it was I was want to be I went to school for marketing. Uh, to this day, I love business and economics and stats and talking about these things. And I lived in room 720, the seventh floor, Seneca.
Woo, Seneca.
Seneca, yes, yes. And coincidentally, there's some Monroe people on that floor who are older than me, and from my hometown. And I was there, and the rest of the guys were in Cayuga,
Oh,
which is right across the way.
yeah. So you guys had shared the dining hall.
Share the dining. I forgot the name of it. Yeah, but yeah, that's right, right there. So that's right. You go downstairs to the tunnels, and you go to the dining hall.
Oh man, I feel like I should know that and I don't remember
I
it.
should I should know my Oswego, geography trivia, but
Hmm.
as the years go by, it's fading.
No, I know, I know. Hey, my first dorm was Moreland, and I don't even know if was that online when you were there. Was Moreland still a dorm?
Lakeside? Is that a Lakeside dorm?
No.
No, then I don't. I've
All
never
right,
even
when you're
heard of this.
driving up Bridge Street and you're driving up to the college, to Oswego
Yes.
College, and you've got to make a right to get like
Y-
in that
Yes.
first dorm on the right across from Sheldon.
Oh, it was by Snig Hall, like over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I remember there being something there, but I thought that was for like, if I remember correctly, I thought it was for like older students or long or something that was different. That was just a freshman dorm.
That was my freshman dorm, but
Okay.
we're 20 years, almost 20 years apart.
I
So
mean, well, yeah. I see. If you got there so you got there in 81.
yes.
Okay, so yeah, so about 15 years.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That
Yeah,
made me feel so much better.
yeah. A lot can change. Yeah.
Thank you. No, it
Not
really
that far
did.
away. Not that far away. Yeah, right.
So did you graduate with a marketing degree?
I did. I did. I graduated marketing degree, and I with a few internships under my belt. And I think one of the greatest thing I took away, and I tell people all the time, it's a shame when I see people graduating with a degree and in debt, and they never actually did the thing to find out. It's a lot different sitting in a classroom than going to work. And I interned, I did the office thing. I had some fun internships. I interned at Disney World. I did the college program. Um, but I just learned, just offices aren't for me. I just couldn't do the office, and that's not a knock on people who do, you know. It's great, but I would always sit there and tell people that like when I'm on a fire truck going through Manhattan, if I'm walking by a guy unloading the truck or a guy going to into an office, they all want to be on a fire truck. They're all looking at me like I wish I was on a fire truck. So
So do you graduate and go home and now you're working in the city with that? Is
yeah, I
that like
graduated. I actually did. I interned at the NBA, like a postgraduate paid internship at the NBA. Uh, so
okay,
I was
that
getting paid.
sounds like the greatest job that would make you want to be in
I
marketing
mean, yeah,
forever.
yeah, and my wife worked at the NFL, turned out working at the NFL, but it was just one of those things that the biggest lesson I got from the internships was like, I love this subject matter and I could do it. I'm sure I could have done it. And like I said, I was a late bloomer, but as I was still like you know, it just wasn't, when you have ADHD like I have, you can't go in there. You know what I mean? You got to find another outlet. You know what I mean? Like, so through the process though, the business school was great though. The business school at Oswego was very good with great professors. And I also had my brother who was, 10 years older than me, which is a lot of life experience can be learned. I'm 18, he's 28, I'm getting out, he's in his 30s. He's like, you got to build a resume. And I tell this people, I pay this forward now, or pay, to people all the time, like you can't just, especially now, I don't know how these kids are doing it. You got to, I got job offers. I mean, I came out and I got, I had job offers fairly quick, even though the '01 economy was going down. Uh, and from the business school, I stopped one day and I looked at the bill at the papers on the wall. And there's a lot of things available. People don't stop that you can do. You know what I mean? So I did 3 internships, and through the process of it, I just was like, man, offices aren't me. Not that I couldn't do anything in business, but I'd have to be on the move. You know,
Yeah.
I'd have to be on the move. You know what I mean? And especially when you go from, and you remember, college ends in a day. It's over. It doesn't phase out. One day, it's over, and then you got to go. And so I didn't. That summer, I did go home for a short bit, but there was a giant part of me, and this isn't a knock on those who do, but there was a giant part of me that I can't live at home. No, no, I'm not gonna have my father look at me like, he beat me, like I'm losing. You know what I mean? Like I'm losing like I was like, I'll go live on someone else's couch before I live at home. And I love my parents, but it was, and they were like, stay, you save some money. I'm like, no, and I mean, and I remember like being broke. I was just like choosing between a Metro card to get home or lunch. I had to like, well, I guess I'm not eating lunch today.
Did you, were you on someone's couch or did you
I was
find
at
like a,
my aunt lived in Riverdale.
okay. That
So I
still
was,
sounds like a huge commute.
I mean, I'll tell you, the 7 or 10 bus to the 1 and 9 train to the shuttle. And I remember being on it and being like, I cannot do this. And remember, college ends in a day. I
Yeah.
remember being like, a month ago, I was in my fraternity house with all my friends. And now I'm on the one train at 7:45 in the morning with my with my Men's Warehouse, 3 for $20 tie. You know what I mean? I mean, life lesson. It made me very much appreciate what I have now and getting out of the fire department, which was I tell people when I got hired at the fire department, it's like when Charlie found the last golden ticket, like that was me getting hired. But,
So
and
how'd you find that? How did the
okay,
fire
so,
department come up? Usually it's a
so
family thing.
yes. So my older, my oldest brother was a cop. He got on in 1992 and he went to the fire department in 99. My middle brother joined the fire department in summer of 96. So he's coming up on 30 years. They were there while I was at school. So I didn't, people think, oh, you're from a fire department family. No, not really. It kind of just turned out that way. You know what I mean? Um, Even today when we talk to each other, we don't talk like that. But my oldest brother, 10 years older than me, had that, had some life experience and it was like mushing my face into tests. Because you can take these tests when you're 17 and a half, I believe. I don't, and he was also like, you're not being a cop. It's just not happening. You know, uh, it's not a knock on,
Because
that's not a
because he
knock
was
on.
because he was protecting you or
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he
He's
thought
just
you
like
didn't
he
have
was
the
like, and again, I'm not saying this and to the brothers and sisters in blue, they're phenomenal. I'm not saying it that I'm not by any means. He was just like, I just don't want to see you doing this job,
Mhm.
especially knowing that fire department was there. So, God bless them for doing it too. I always tell people when I talk to cops, like, the fire department deals with things, the police department deal with people. I'd much rather deal with things than people, right? That I'm good with working with people, but on that end. So when I took the fire department test, and I took it in 1999, the written test, I took the physical in January of 2000 so I was in, and this is all happenstance. This is all just perfect timing coincidence that it had, because I could have been at school. I had to drive home and take the test, and I wasn't in the gym like I am now when I was in college. So the fire department, I took that right before I went to Disney World. I did the Disney College program in spring of 2000. Like we can talk about that too. And then I come out 9/11. You know, what May 3 months after I graduate. I'm in an office on 9/11, and sure enough, it sped up. I got hired that January.
Well,
It sped up a lot. And that was just circumstance. I'm not gonna say lucky for me because it's not lucky, but it was circumstantial that it just came at a time when like, oh man, this is just perfect for me right now. You know, uh, and then throughout the career at the fire department, I just had more luck of things being available for me, promotional opportunities being available to me at times when it's like very quickly. Like you take a lieutenant test, they offer it like every 4 years. It's not like you just sign up and go take it one day. And you got one shot, you know. And these things were just available at these times that I was able to go up the ranks. And again, my brother being like, you have to study. You have, and studying isn't, I probably put conservatively 1,400 hours into the lieutenant test reading, and part of my late bloomer, you would never see me doing that in college, you know what I mean? But it was just this, all right, older, it's competitive, kind of, that nature came out. I'm single, I have time, you know. I did all my tests without kids, thank God, because I couldn't even imagine turning my brain on at the end of the day. But so it just I got hired at that time that was just perfect for me. I was 23. Uh, people would be making fun of your paycheck when you're the new guy. Like a $600 paycheck. I'm like, I am a trillionaire right now. Looking at this, I'm like, I worked at Burn Dairy in Oswego 6 months ago, making minimum wage. This is, you know, this is amazing. So it was just another opportunity that I didn't create, but I took, and now I'm like, wow, it was really great. The whole time. It's kind of surreal being done. The reasons are there, but it's surreal being done. But uh, getting back to like how Oswego played a role in that. I think it taught me to study. The business school definitely put you on blast. Once you got into the higher, Dr. Molinari was, I'm sure he's not there anymore, but he was the one professor's name I remember, and that's why, because he just was a guy that was like, he didn't take BS from you. If you give a bad answer, he called you out on it. You know what I mean? Uh, and he's one that would stick with me. That definitely gave me that. 'Cause my grades my senior year in the 400 were great, and they were the hardest years. But I just had to, I don't know. I guess that was the time of my life when the things were just a bit changing in me.
When
To
you when you start with the FD with the fire department,
yes,
I imagine that the first years there, and this is fire department in Manhattan.
I was
So,
in Washington Heights, 181st Street. Yeah, Manhattan.
okay, and those are really tall buildings. I know because I saw in the Heights.
You watched that in the Heights? Okay.
Oh yeah, come on,
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel. We're singing his
Oh,
songs
really? Okay.
all the time. Um, so is the training like when you start out, I'm imagining you have to like run up 10 flights.
Yeah. Well, that was I. Oh man, I remember, and I went into I went in. I probably weighed 170 pounds, soaking wet, and I was a skinny. I heard, up in that neighborhood, I heard Flacco all the time when I was walking around. You know, uh, but I went in and I got a big shock physically at first. Um, and then, but within a month of it, I was in pretty good shape. But yeah, you go in and again, it's like yeah, and it's like you're still. I was just I was out of school 6 months. Now you're doing this. Now it's big boy time. Like even though we grow old, we don't grow up. In the fire department. You know what I mean? To this day, but I had a whole bunch of young guys with me, great guys I'm friends with to this day. And we were only there for 2 months, which is a short academy. A very short academy is 2 months. They'll go 5 months to 6 months, but it was after 9/11 and they needed guys. So they gave us like, I guess arguably a crash course. And yeah, no, it was like, you're in the classroom, you're in the field, you're doing the training, but it was just, it wasn't an office day. It wasn't an office. So like, I get to play on fire trucks. You know what I mean? So like,
But I love the way you keep saying play. Where after Washington Heights, where do you spend your career? Where in Manhattan are you?
I was okay. So I got to Washington Heights in the end of March of '02. I was there for about, I was four and a half years, a little under 5 years, and then I went down to Lower Manhattan. When you get promoted, you're not assigned to a house right away. They'll put you in a geographic area, and we call them divisions. And I went to Division 1, which is Lower Manhattan, which is about the 40s south to the battery. And then, so that was in '06. And I got assigned to Engine 3 in 2008. Uh, and I had a blast. Like, I had a blast the whole career. But so from 2006 to 2000 to June 2011, I was in Lower Manhattan. And I was a 28-year-old lieutenant bartender on top of the world. Yeah. Like to this day, I can't believe you paid me for this. I cannot believe you paid me.
So you say
Yeah.
a 28-year-old firefighter and
Oh,
bartender?
yeah, I was lieutenant bartender, single. I'd met Danielle. We weren't married. I was a captain. I was a captain when I got married, actually. I got promoted captain in June 2011. And then I went to the South Bronx. And then in January 2018, I got promoted battalion chief, and I went to Queens. Yeah. I'd run into Maspeth. I was at Queens in Long Island City, Queens.
So I don't know anything about fighting fires,
Okay.
obviously, but
Shoot away. I'll tell you everything I know.
I imagine that I lived in Queens, I grew up in Queens. Queens is, I think, easier, is my guess, because you do have some two-story, you do have a
Uh,
lot of two-story homes.
when I was in Queens, when I'm a chief, for the most part, I'm standing in the street. So it's almost like I tell people that when I got promoted, it was almost like a second career within the same industry. A lot more using my brain. You're always using your brain. It's the best tool you have, but a lot more responsibility, um, expanded responsibility, and a lot more application of knowledge, and to me was a lot more leadership, uh, which is something that I've evolved on a lot over the years. But I didn't shy away. Wherever I was, that wherever you are, wherever you go, there you are. That's what it was to me. It was, I went from 6-story tenements in the Heights to a high-rise engine officer in Lower Manhattan, and I got to tour. I got to see a lot and adapt to a lot. You know, and ran around a lot. I mean, I'm not going to say never say you've seen it all, because the day you've seen it all, God's going to throw something at you. You know what I mean? God's going to laugh at you if you tell him you've seen it all. And through it all, it was, yeah, and just through it all, I had educational opportunities, uh, and I just signed up for these things. I'll do that. People are like, how'd you get that? I'm like, I signed up. I don't know. I went after did it. I got a master's certificate in Homeland Security. I went to a West Point class. I went to a management institute, Fire Officers Management Institute, which is kind of like Wharton Business School in Columbia. I never thought I'd be sitting. I got credits at Columbia. You know what I mean? When I was getting straight D's in high school, I didn't think I'd be doing all these things. But you can do it if you sign up. You can do it. So between 3 promotional tests, which is 1,000, probably 4,000 hours of studying, 5,000 hours of studying for all that, and I mean that, like putting that time in, to the other educational opportunities that were there that I took. It all, I mean, my career got cut short, but I'm not. Okay, that's life. I wasn't done yet, but okay. You know, who am I to sit there and say it should work out the way I want it? You know what I mean? That's it. Curveballs get thrown and you gotta take it. You gotta play your cards.
Compare
And
for me, so you start out in Manhattan and you're
yes,
fighting fires as a young buff firefighter. And
invincible
yeah,
man.
yes,
Yes,
nothing
a
can
kid
happen to me.
with
To
all my friends.
the end of the career where you're a battalion chief, and I imagine the struggle is managing people and maybe equipment. Um, which is harder? Which is easier?
I'm gonna say that for me, being a fireman was so much. I don't. The most fun time you had in college is nothing. I tell people the fire department was college with a paycheck. I had so much fun, you know, so much fun. And you have youthful ignorance on your side. Not that I wasn't serious about it, but some days it got serious, you know. but I was just having a blast. And then when you get promoted, when I got promoted to lieutenant, I was not happy. It was like, oh man, you kind of got to shift. I was young. I'm an extrovert, and I like to joke around. Couldn't do that anymore. I was still like myself in a lot of ways, but I had to. And then for years, I was kind of like always a little behind where I should be. Like I really got lieutenant down when I became captain. I really got captain down when I became chief. You know what I mean? It's like I was just like, and it was just that second half of the career when I started to really, it, my personality type. When we went to a school called Fire Officers Management Institute, and they do a psychological evaluation of yourself. And I'm an amiable expressive. That's what they call me. I'm a very expressive guy. I'm an extroverted guy, but I'm also get along you know, to go along. You know what I mean? So managing people was telling people what to do. And that's what leadership is. It's not, but it's out of my character, you know, to go in there. But you're up, and I'm at the first, and I later on got that high trait conscientiousness to know how I'm perceived, and just as important, I always tell people know what you don't know. In the sense, if you do a self inventory of yourself and say these are my strengths and weaknesses, really, I started applying that to that leadership role, and even if it wasn't genuine for me to act a bit more as the boss, it does work if you know it, and eventually you kind of train yourself. And 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 I and I also saw enough negatives in other people to be like, don't at least don't be like that guy. You know what I mean? Like, don't be like him. You know. So that leadership quality was something that I was really embracing it as battalion chief, and it got cut short, and that's fine. Um, I was going to take over the battalion as a commander, and I was really applying everything I'd learned into making sure that I would be a success at that. And and there's a lot that goes into uh, all the ranks, but that rank especially to me was there was a lot of responsibility because I'm the one who makes the call whether this is working. We have a saying, like when you're the chief, and are we winning or are we losing in this fire? And you got to sometimes if you're losing, you got to be the leader and be the boss and say we're done, everyone out. I've had this instance before, and I tell people that like leadership, it's not knowing everything. It's not. And it's definitely not telling everyone what to do. If you're telling everyone what to do, there's a problem. You know, on a rare case, I mean, you build good team building is we've prepared for this enough times. I don't need to tell you what to do. You know what to do. If anything, I got to hold you back. I'd much rather work with people I got to hold back than push forward. Pushing people forward is a lot hard. And pulling people out's a lot hard too. You know, so that was a theme of my latter half of my career. The first part might as well have been a DK party with your friends, but you got to go to a fire sometimes. And I'm friends with those guys. I mean, especially getting back to like graduating and how it ends in a day, and I'm on the one train, and I'm hungry, and I'm making no money, to bam, I got that taste of it, and then so I just appreciated the fire department so much more because now I'm just going like I you go to work with a smile on your face. It wasn't even work. Like I can honestly tell you, I didn't go to work. I went to the firehouse. I never went to work. The firehouse, you
But
know.
sometimes that bell is going to ring.
But we're just hard charging guys. Like you just want to do it. And when I say guys, I mean that interchangeably. Anyone who's a 5 minute, the guys or the girls. Um, No, it was an adventure. Like, what am I? I'm climbing up ladders. I'm like, what I mean, it's like you're climbing through windows. You're laughing with your friends. We have a gallows humor. You're on the fire truck. You're ripping each other's lives apart, driving around 3 hours. 3 o'clock in the morning, another one comes in. you're ripping it, you're right back to where you left off, ripping each other's lives apart in the rig, and then going to, I mean, the work, there's a lot of tediousness in it. It's not just fires all day, which we like going to. Uh, but I told people I've been in, I've been in the dungeons of New York. I've gone from underneath a subway car to 10 minutes later into a $100 million penthouse. Like I watch the news and I can tell you what neighborhood the news reports in because I'm like, oh, I recognize that building. It's just imprints in your brain over the years,
You know
So that
your
was
area.
like, yeah, well, that's the thing, know your area. You bet, yeah, that's the fire department. You have to know your area. Um, that's why when you're bouncing around the city a lot, you see a lot, but you don't get to, you got to sit at home for a while to really get good at the fire department because you got to, know your area, and believe me, you get to know New York City. I don't go in New York post-COVID. I haven't really been into the city often, but when I do go in, and especially in the areas I worked, there's aspects of it that's just imprinted on my mind. Like I could tell you how many staircases in that building. I could tell, what I mean? Like I had a fire here, just, what I mean? And it's just these memories, it's just, yeah. Sometimes right now, like I've been good at being fine out of the fire department. But when I start talking like this, or I get together with the guys I work with, you start to get a little bit like, oh man, you know, I'm not that old, 47. I still want to get after it, You know what I mean? Like it was still, even as like, even Chief was so different. It was still cool. It was still a cool aspect to it, you know what I mean? And people, I miss the guys. I'm,
They're your family.
you just, yeah, you go in and you just, I especially, I met guys that I never would have known from different we would never cross paths in life, different backgrounds, different everything. But you go into a fire together, it's just, you're bonded now, you know?
Brothers.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah. And it was just, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. It was perfect timing. It was
So,
perfect timing for me.
so I feel like I have an expertise on what you do for a living because I watch a lot of TV.
Turn it off.
This is my favorite question to ask people
Yes.
because it's usually hilarious, the answer.
Okay.
There are a ton of TV shows about firefighters, a
Yes.
ton. And I like stop myself from listing them all, but I'm going to just list a couple. There's 911, 911 Lone Star, 911 Nashville, Chicago Fire, Fire Country. Do you watch any of these shows and do any of them get it right?
No.
That's why
Not even
question.
close.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Um, Fire Country's a wild land fire show. I don't know anything about that type of firefighting, so I can't speak to it. I'm sure it's wrong. Um, if some of those things that happen on like 911 happened to me during the day, I'd quit that day and being like, I'm not doing this.
The episode where she lands the plane on the highway and
Yeah.
her husband, the firefighter, is telling her where the plane is. I'm like, come on.
I
Come on,
mean,
Ryan Murphy. Come
we
on. The one thing I get from it, and I'm getting from you full force, is the brotherhood. It is a family. It is not,
yeah,
this is different than people who go to work in an office. This is not the office.
no, no, it's what you're living together. There's a reason why they call it the firehouse. Back in the day, you'd get off the boat from wherever you came, you know, and you lived there for 6 days. You saw your parents you saw your family one day a week, because you were just literally living there. And now, especially when I was in Manhattan, I was living there. I was single, man. I was like, go park at the firehouse, go out that night. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it is that you cook together. And you're riding around all day together. And you get to know, like you're talking constantly. So eventually, like, oh, I ran out of things to talk about. Well, I could say this, and you just get to know every aspect about each other. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and the amount of weddings, some guys, the guys I've been to, and like go to a firehouse wedding, it's hysterical. Um, yeah, you
I'll give
know?
you a hint. One of the things that I think they do get right that you mentioned today is that it's not all fires.
No, oh no, it's most yeah, no,
911
it's
shows that they're in the house and they have to
yeah, no, yeah, you're living there, you're cleaning it, but what did it afford me? I got to study at work, I got to yeah, I got to learn to cook, I get to hit the gym, and then you're responding. You're just, we drill a lot, we train, but you're just, waiting for, and what is, especially when you're in Manhattan, you don't know what you're gonna get. Did a crane collapse? You know what I mean? My friends went to, I wasn't working. They went to when Sully landed in the Hudson, So imagine, I can imagine being like a chief and I'm sitting there, drinking a cup of coffee one second, talking to the bat sports, and next thing you know, is a plane in it. And we got to, there's no manual. We got to figure this out. You know what I mean? That's a lot of the things that you do is you just apply what you apply your knowledge, what you do to scenarios that just fall upon you.
So
And
the
it's like
firefighters got the people off the plane and onto a boat?
it was the 7th Battalion responded. They were on if I remember this correctly, it was a freezing cold day. I was driving to work on a West Side Highway. If I looked right, I would have seen it. So I missed it. But my guys went, and the civilian charter boats that take people from like Jersey over, they did a great job responding. We had guys, we got to get, how do we get out there? You know what I mean? Like, our Marine units would show up there, but we got to get, and PD helicopter and PD units were out there, and it was, thank God, it was a fairly easy operation, relatively, considering everyone's out on the wings, everyone's alive. I think some guys did go into the. I think some of the scuba guys did actually go into the plane to check, but it's just an example of what's going. You could have an extremely boring day, and then there's a plane in the river, something like that. I mean, I just kind of for lack of, I mean. For lack of a better word, you don't want to sit there and say you enjoyed what just happened, but I just, I don't know, respected what came with responding to these things, and it does, and then you and then you go home.
I understand this because you're saving people's lives in the end. That's what you're doing. And so in the old job in marketing, it could have been spreadsheets all day. And instead, you're out on the Hudson River, not you personally, but someone is
Someone is,
saving
yeah.
saving people's lives.
I would listen to Danielle on like a work call, and I'd be like, thank God I don't have a real job. I'm so happy that I don't have to have these conversations with people.
So
Like you would have to.
she was in marketing for the NFL, correct?
She was going to Danielle. I could give you a bit of background on her then. She was a psychology major from Fordham, and she was your typical early 2000s entry level 32,000 a year girl at MTV. But getting into personality types, as I was talking before, she had high trait disagreeableness, and that's what you need to succeed. Like I'm a pleaser. She says no. You know what I mean? And her boss, she was at MTV, and her boss went over to the NFL, and I think within a year he took over a bunch of his team. And to this day, I still could not tell you exactly what she did there. She did a lot, but this is probably parlaying into what we're doing with the scholarship program. Was a lot of times she was the only woman in the C-suite, and she deserved to be there, and she wasn't there to check a box. She was, and she just moved up that corporate ladder, and it was kind of interesting that I met I met her, we were both, your typical, mid-20s, starting it out, you know what I mean? And we kind of both shot up together and, in that regards. And that wasn't the plan, yeah, it's the way it worked, but I think yeah, I was studying like when I met her really, and thank God for that because I can't. She's like, "Oh, I saw you had ambition," because I can't think of any other reason she liked me. But like when she was a vice president, I'm like, "You wouldn't date me now." Would you still hang out with me? Yeah, so that and getting into that is, definitely related to the foundation and why, we chose, okay, which I didn't want to
So she passed away to
she passed away.
fill in the
Yeah.
blanks.
Yes. Okay, so she
Yeah.
was diagnosed in December of 22 with cancer. The kids don't know what it was. And she fought until it'd be 2 years this month to May 21st of 24. But after that, I didn't want to like we can start a foundation, a charity. I wanted us to be the source of the charity, not giving to another charity. You give to a cancer charity. Say we raise money for cancer, we have $50,000 cancer. 40,000 out of that is going to be administrative fees. You know what I mean? How much are we really doing? So I'm like, let's keep it local, let's keep it here. And Danielle went to Catholic school from kindergarten to her MBA. And so we said, all right, let's just girls graduating Catholic school going on, and last year, we raised like 130 grand. Uh, and through the process of doing it, one thing I discovered, and I discovered this last year, really, the day of the eighth grade graduation when we were giving it out. I'm listening to all the other scholarships that are going out to people, and the girls get nothing. Like we have Stepanek over here, or Iona and Fordham. They have, for whatever reason, they're alumni, and the money that's donated that goes in there and it's available, all these different scholarships. Yeah, the boys are getting full rides, and the girls are lucky to get $500 here. Now, that wasn't the motivation for us doing it, but it's definitely a motivation going forward. Because when I was there, I was like, wow, the girls really don't, like the girls really don't get much. I don't know. I guess the reasons why, I don't know. I guess maybe the endowments in these schools are just vastly different between the girls and the boys. So more of a motivation, for what we're doing. You know what I mean? And we've gotten a lot of great feed. Unfortunately, last year we gave the winner 25,000, and we surprised all the rest of the girls with money too. This year I hope to do something do similar, but now these grades are going to get real big, so I'm not going to be able to give everyone money. You know what I mean? So we're going to do probably go back to one main scholarship, going forward. But it's great. It's good stuff, and I'm coaching girls now, and my daughter Whitney, I'm seeing her buddies. I was the youngest in my family, and it was all boys. And I was like the youngest in my extended family, at least in America. So I didn't have anyone like kid relative, beneath me. You know what I mean? So having kids and working with kids is still a little like, how do I talk to you?
So
But
tell me about the process of leaving the fire department
okay,
and realizing you're leaving for good.
yeah, very surreal. It wasn't overnight. I mean, I've been off the fire truck now for a little over 2 years. And I can't believe I have not taken in a call in 2 years. Like that's just a source of like an anxiety and but not a depression or anything like that. I know some guys, the job didn't, in the later years, as much as I still love the job, it didn't define me like when I was younger, because, like I went from single fireman to, to married home, studying for chief, and then kids come in a very short period of time. You know what I mean? So the fire department, which was my first priority, was in my top five now. You know what I mean? Still, still up there though. So when and the one thing that really separates the fire department from other organizations, and this is not an attack on any other organizations, this is just a pat on the back to the fire department. They were very good to me with what was going on, because I took some time when Danielle was diagnosed, and then I was like, listen, I'm going back to the field. You know, at a time when I was genuinely, you're going to beat this. And she was, not wishful thinking, like genuinely, So I went back to work, and we went through, her treatments and her processes. And then in April of 24, when in a week, she just got bad, and I left the field, stayed with her, until she passed. And then it was like, well, I'm never going to a fire again. And it wasn't a it wasn't a mental block, D, where it's like I'm a wreck and I can't. No, it was just a rationality. It was a pure rational, logical thing. I'm looking at the kids. I'm like, I'm not ever putting a mask on again. It's just over with. Imagine something does happen. I'm all they got now. I mean, not all they have, but I'm like, I'm the one thing that's, yeah, I'm responsible for you. So I was going through the process. I had a lot of hours that were owed to me. I saved a lot of time and a lot, and I was assigned to a unit. And listen, I became a firefighter to an employee of the fire department. If you're not doing it, what am I doing here? I could have stayed on. I could have stayed on in an administrative capacity or training capacity. It's just one to be difficult to work with the kids. I was able to retire. They're right down the street. They see dad in the morning. They see dad at night. I pick them up from school. I drop them off. I'm a phone call away. So I knew it was time to go. So I used my hours and there's that, you go through your retirement process. There's that day when you hand in your gear. But I can't believe that's when that was when I'm like, wow, this is done. I'm handing in my gear. Uh, and you kind of looking around and I'm like, wow, this chapter is over. But I tell people it's like, and again, this is like, I'm not saying this woe is me. It's by no means like that. I want to make sure that people understand because I get to retire. There's some guy with a jackhammer right now being like, I wish I could retire, dude. I don't want to hear you complain about it. I'm not saying it that way. But different than other jobs, it was like, I easily would have done 30, and the I always tell people, they also said to say, I don't always say this is a new revelation I've had is the idea that I could disappear from the home, the kids for 24 hours and go hang out with your friends and do stuff and then come back. I miss those 24s. They were a great mental break. You know what I mean? Because now I'm just like, oh, the tediousness of the kids. It's just, I love them. It's just a mental beating. It's just a beating. That's why I'm so happy I studied, before the kids were born. Because because I'm a night studier too. At the end of the day, after the kids, at 8 o'clock at night, my brain is mush. I want to just watch, it's idiocracy. I just want to turn on the TV and watch something stupid. Or not even, or just lay in silence. You know what I mean? So the idea of study, I was studying maybe 5 years ago for the next promotional, which would be the final study for deputy. It would be deputy chief. And I was studying for about 3 months. And I remember I was studying right in this room. I still look for her. She sat on the couch in the same spot every day with her legs crossed and the laptop. And I'll still, not as much as I used to, but I still look for, like, I'll glance over to look for her, Like I haven't called her name out in a while. But I remember I was sitting here reading and studying for deputy with the kids and the house and the life and all the new errands to run, all first world problems. But how they can add up. And I remember Danielle being like, "Hey, babe, I got the promotion. I got the VP promotion. And I'm like, she's like, I'm gonna have a big bonus too. I'm not gonna say what it is. And I literally, this is like a scene out of a movie, out of one of your TV shows. I closed the books, pushed them away, said, I'm done. I don't have to do this. I'm like, how much you making? I'm like, bye. And I'm so happy I did. I'm so happy I did. You know, uh, I'm like, I'm gonna ride out as battalion chief. I'm gonna take over the command. I'm gonna run the office. I'm gonna know my area, and this is my, ride out to the sunset gig. And the plan. Well, I'd never had a. I tell people that, remember that scene in Forrest Gump when he's running for 2 years, and then
Yes.
one day he just stops. He just turns around and says, "I'm tired." That was my retirement plan. One day I was gonna wake up and say, I'm not going to work today. I'm done. I think that was my plan. I think if I got to the point where I don't, it, if I got to the point where it's like, yeah, I don't care if I go to a fire ever again or not, that's the day you should be done, you know? Or
But
the very least,
you're not there yet.
I still, I still listen to the scanner, the radio. I'll still watch videos. I'll still shoot texts to guys, talk about this fire. But I've, mm, I remember over the winter I was watching on YouTube like a live video, some outlet, and it was like a multiple alarm in Harlem, and it was like 10 degrees out, and I'm like, "Ooh, it's cold out there." I'm like, listen, and listen. I could look at any firefighter in the world, and honestly say, I did it. I did that. You know, you can tell me how good, I'll give myself a C plus. You know, uh, I always told people my mistakes. Just say, a smart person learns from mistakes, a wise person learns from others. I'll always, let me tell you this time I messed up. You know what I mean? And anyone who says they haven't is lying. Uh, there's some guys are that good, but even those guys are like, oh man, I'll tell you about this mistake I made one time. Uh, that was one thing I
So,
noticed that was one thing I noticed in the battalion chief rank when speaking to other chiefs was a very this is another leadership thing I learned from a learning and teaching perspective was candor. You know, we if you don't know, say you don't know. If you do know, share it. You might be wrong. You
mm,
know, you know what I mean. You might learn something. You know what I mean? Like, and I apply that now in life. I apply that now in life. But yeah, I miss it. I mean, sometimes I tell people like, if I can give me 2 night tours a month, and if you can guarantee my safety, if
oh, really?
if you guarantee my safety, which is impossible, I'd go to work twice a month.
All right. You slipped something in that I didn't expect. I'm dying to hear about it. You are coaching your daughter's team. What team is it? And tell
Volleyball.
me about coaching.
Okay, so I coached flag football. I've done 3 seasons, my son. My first season, I didn't win a game. I had to learn to coach. My second and third season, champions. So now I took on volleyball, which my knowledge of volleyball is that scene in Top Gun and uh
Yep.
maybe some drinking days down at the Jersey Shore. But I was like, you know what? Every girl's playing. I live in just a side note, my community is great. I live in like it's like I hit a jacket lottery. Like I didn't know when we moved here, I didn't even know where we were. You know what I mean? Like, we bought the house the first day we were looking. Because and then you buy the house and then, for a few years you don't have kids. You're kind of like, oh, all right, I guess this is life now. And then the kids come and you go to school and you get a whole new, and this neighborhood is phenomenal. And I've gotten to know like got a great group of people. It's amazing, and between Whitney's grade and Marty's grade, there's like 13, 14 sets of siblings. So now so we see each other all the time. So with volleyball, Whitney, her team, they just won state CYO basketball. They won the state championship, which is not an easy task. And just watching and you just get to know them. And Whitney asked me to coach. Why? I don't know why, because she yells at me more than I yell at her at volleyball practice. And it's a challenge. I was like, you know what? I'll do that. I guess maybe that's an extension of my I'll do that, and like, I'll try this. So I'm learning volleyball. That you got it. I'm like, I tell the girls, I tell the parents, I'm like, give me 1 year. Because these girls they're great. They're all athletes, but volleyball is not like basketball where you can just do a pickup game. You know what I mean? It's not, you can't, not everybody can go play hockey or tennis. You need a core, you need this. So we're learning, but and I'm learning how to coach it. And I think after this year, because there's 4 teams, it's 4 JV teams. That's how many girls are playing. I think next year, if the parents want to stick with it, that I could really turn this into something
All
more.
the
But
training that you've taken in
I
the
am
fire
I am
department,
a
isn't this?
hundred. I am telling you, I am learning through failure right now. But that was basically, excuse me, that
None
was
of the
basically
things, none of the things that you learned working in a firehouse are
well, we did have a
applicable.
volleyball court at work, but that was a little different.
I think you're hung up on the rules of volleyball, where coaching is really about creating community and letting people know to trust
Well, it's
trust the
another thing.
process.
It is an extension of me. I know it is a motivation of like people ask me, oh, you like working with kids? No, I don't. But I know the importance of it. You know, what I mean, I understand the importance of it, and I got to pay back how good people were to me here. Like, I had, you know what I mean? Like I got to pay back in some way. You know what I mean? Like, and I hate debt. Not cheap, but if I owe you $20 a day, I'll pay $100 to get it back to you. Just to make us even. And that's what I'm doing. So yeah, I coach volleyball. I got to pay people back in different ways, you know, and it's funny, you know, and this is my first time really coaching girls, and I got to make sure that you can't talk to them, boys and girls are different. Oh, sorry, boys and girls are different. And even though these girls aren't that different than their brothers, like, but
Feelings get hurt.
these guys, this group of kids, at least in this neighborhood, in this community, they remind me a lot of personality wise of my friends when we were growing up. But say kids are soft these days. Not these kids. These guys got after it. You know, they play every sport. The first time watch girls CYO basketball. It's a street brawl. Okay, it's not. It is. You know. You know what I mean. And the girls. They are. It's like when the boys are messing around, they're wrestling. When the girls are not paying attention, they're doing each other's hair and telling each other how pretty they are. Like they're different. But when it comes to game time, these girls are just, oh my God. Like, watch it. I mean, even Whitney, my daughter's a little thing, you know? But when they fight for the ball, I'm like, who are you? You are you're my daughter, you know? Yeah. So no, it's enjoy, and it's just a great community, and if you have the right kids and the right parents, right, you get a lot of good things going on. And I get to play other Catholic schools. You know what I mean? I make sure that, I'm trying to build, that faith camaraderie, and so far so good, you know? So,
So
and no,
speaking of giving back,
yes,
reunion weekend is coming up and DKK is celebrating its
they're
100th.
100. They're 100.
Yeah. So I don't even have to ask this question. What are the brothers doing to celebrate?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
It's so many. It really is. And don't worry, I have a very close friend of mine that lives near me. He's in the fire department too. Um, uh, it's so many chapters ago. You know what I mean? And you use the word chapter before to describe, leaving the fire department. And I've used that too. It's like I can't, how many chapters have I had that's like, wow, that's that long ago. We were talking about, remembering things from years ago. You know what I mean? I'm 30, coming up on 30 years from going to my first day of school, and I just had so many, like, I just had so many great times in my life and experiences since then with different groups of people, and either from the fire department to my community now. Um, it's like, wow, I that was so long ago. You know what I mean? Like, do you know where I wanted to go? I wanted to go back, and I was gonna go back for the eclipse. If you remember the eclipse a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and my sister-in-law went to one in Tennessee, and I'm like a semi geek, I'm like, yeah, like I'm interested in stuff. I get, but so I was gonna go. Danielle, that was when Danielle started kind of getting sick. I wanted to take the kids so bad. I was gonna go to Oswego. The total eclipse is going through it, and I was psyched, and I was gonna get a crew. Let's all go back. You know what I mean? And I would like the kids to see it, to get out. You know what I mean? It's not, but probably it's not around the corner. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It'd be so. I think it would be almost be like a dream to go back. It would be like, wow, I was here. Like, I took the kids over the summer and I took them to the Jersey Shore on the way back from a night down there, and I took them to the exact spot I met Danielle. And I took a picture of them. Like, here's the, and I'm looking around, and I love the Jersey Shore. I was down there for years, and I'm looking around. I'm like, wow, this is so long ago. Like, this is like being that back was like a dream. So I can only imagine what going back to Oswego would be like, you know. And you're there for years. You're there for years of your life, and back then it felt like, now, 4 years flies by. You know what I mean? They say long days, short years. But when we were there, it was a long time. You remember when you were younger, time went a little slower. You know what I mean? And we were there for that was a major part of your life at that point. You know what I mean? When you leave, college is 20% of your life. you know? And I'm just I'm just very curious to see what it's like now. I know they have those new houses there when you come in. What do they call the Commons or something like that? They're like townhouses almost.
Yeah, so if you're leaving what they call like Lakeside, so if you're leaving Onondaga, and do you remember there was a
That
road
long
that,
wraparound road. Yes.
yes. So if you're taking that long wraparound road, to your left is where these new houses are,
Yes.
and they're beautiful.
Have you been back?
Yeah, oh yeah, I live 45 minutes, so
Okay.
I've been back multiple times. But
Okay. How do you get into those?
I think there's a lottery.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's kind of like Onondaga. Or when you were
Yeah.
there, was Onondaga like a thing? Like you had to like
Yeah,
get
you had to put in for the suites, right? That's what they call
right?
them suite. Yeah, the suites, something
Yes.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I got in on my last
Did you?
year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't live off campus?
I never lived off campus. Nope.
Really? Okay. Was that normal to just kind of stay on campus? Like
I don't know to
it
say.
was like an unwritten rule that your junior year you're out of there.
No, I didn't get that rule.
Oh, okay. That was almost that was like that was like an excuse me. That was like an unwritten rule. To that's what you're doing. So I remember I lived in the fraternity house, which was in retrospect object poverty. If I saw if I saw the fraternity house at work, I would go in there, put a vacate order on it, and say, "You guys are all out of here." You know what I mean?
So many fire hazards, right?
Just a disaster. I mean, like it is so night and day to who I am now.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Now I'm close to OCD with cleanliness and minimalism and my diet and exercise. There, sitting on a couch that's God knows how old, cracking your cheapest beer. You know what I mean?
Mattresses that
Yeah.
you have no
Oh my God.
idea,
No,
none.
yeah, no
Yeah.
heat. You can see your breath. You know what I mean?
People using anything to create warmth,
And
anything. Yeah,
anything,
anything.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh my God. It's so, even the Jersey Shore houses we lived in, you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe Danielle and I lived in these things. Yeah. Uh, but you know what? I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Same.
Those memories
Hmm.
of just walking around campus and hanging out with your friends. And yeah, it was so long ago. It's just a shame that these memories really start to fade. You know, they start to as things go on. That's life, you know. But you know, I think the more you do and the more you get involved with, you know what I mean. It makes it bearable in the sense that like, oh, I made new memories. You know, I mean, I got to do a lot of other cool things too. You know, and that's why I tell people. I tell you, young people graduating. You know, especially when you're in school, I'm like, you got to try a bunch of different things. You know, you really got to try a bunch of different things, and don't don't waste an opportunity that's thrown at you. You know, you're not missing anything. You know what I mean? If you go away for a little while, do something. You know, well, yeah, I tell people I interned at Disney World. People are like, Marty, you were the last person I would expect to be at Disney World. You know what I mean? Oh, the Disney College program. And every time people go down, they take a picture of where I work and send it to me. It's like the
Oh
thing,
my
like,
God,
all right.
where did you work?
So I'm sitting in the dining hall by Fennell and Hart Hall, right? Fennell and Hart, right? There's a
Yeah.
dining hall in the middle. And
Yes.
I remember getting back to what we talked about before, how like sometimes you just, why do I remember this? I have no idea. I had seen a Disney, in one of the marketing classes, we watched a thing on how Disney operates, right? Uh, and sure enough, I see the Disney College program in the paper in the Oswegonian. I'm like, I'll do that. Let me try that. You know what I mean? And you go to a meeting, a Disney representative. I think we went to Syracuse. I went with a girl, Andrea, who I was tight with. She was in DeFi. Her and I went. Both got accepted to Disney. Um, and people go, "Oh, you must love Disney." I don't know anything about Disney. Like, I don't think I even saw a Disney movie in my life when you know what I mean. So, and I genuinely mean that. So And next thing you know, I got the letter, you can go. My dad's like, oh, you're good. You're doing something good, you know? Uh, Went down in February of 2000 and they keep you, and I was 21 years old. So I was old. I was the old guy when I was down there. Remember when 21 was old? Remember that? So, yeah. So you go down, they put you in these like suites, your typical three-story Spanish tile roof complex, which was amazing. Like for when you're 21 years old, it was like this, it was the coolest thing. And then they give you a training orientation, which they're very good at. And there I am working at the Disney MGM studios in these red, white, and blue striped polyester pants. And I pushed out strollers for kids. And I was dressed like an old-timey gas station attendant. And then you went to I think they called it Disney U. And you went there, and I think the college program, I think their real motivation is they're trying to recruit management, right? You come here because so many people that I worked with, oh, did the college program and stayed. Well, we're thinking like so many people stayed, and I'm thinking, I guess, we are kind of spoiled in New York with opportunities with the city and stuff like that. But if you're from the middle of nowhere, Michigan, like this is the greatest thing in the world to you. You know what I mean? And okay, and at the time, you could be a manager and own a home. So you go down there, and this was also the first semester that Oswego was doing online coursework. So I took 3 classes while I was there online. Still went out every single night. Took three classes. Um, I think I got 21 credits that semester. And you worked at Disney World. And again, I was only there with 100 nights, made great friends. I was choking back tears when I left. Um, and I remember Dr. Molinari, I needed his okay to go. And he's like, Marty, this isn't a real intern. I remember he was mad. This isn't a real internship. But when I came back and I took a couple more of his classes and I was bringing back, he was actually pretty impressed what I took from it. You know, um, from a business perspective of how they operate behind the scenes, and just I had a lot of fun and I took away, you can go. I tell people too. It's like, Marty, is that coursework good? Is that training good? I'm like, it's whatever you put into it and whatever attitude you bring in. If you bring in a good attitude, then you'll take something from it. You go into it with a crap attitude. Well, of course you're not getting anything out of it because you didn't have the right And then going there, so I made great friends down there, had a blast, got a lot of coursework in, um, and learned, a lot about business, working, people, customer service. I guess it probably definitely helped me talking talking to people. I always have a saying, talk to people, not at them. You don't speak at people. You ever been spoken at? It doesn't feel good. And I'll tell people, you're speaking at me right now. Um, but dealing with, thousands of guests coming in and you got to smack a smile on. You know what I mean? And, anything you say is right. You know what I mean? But it was cool. It was, yeah, I really, I liked it. It's just like that. Another one of those things. One day it's over. You know what I mean? And that's when I came back from there and I interned at the NBA that summer as well. I was in their headquarters. Uh, that was my second internship. So I was building the resume, and then it went back for that senior year with, I'm in class and I'm talking about, you know, I'm talking about my experiences already, which was real world, real applied, experiences in the major. And getting back to what I said before, when people graduate, you're in debt and you took a major that you think you want to do, but you've never done it. Now you're going to go into the world and find out it's not for you. It's not the, it's not, it's not the best, And that was at a time when student loan debt wasn't, you could bang that out I could be a waiter, maybe bang that out in the summer, Now, oh my God. I can't believe what they're graduating with debt wise. Um, so I did again. I also learned I wasn't an office guy, but I'm pretty good with people though. You
Well,
know,
the funny thing is, you mentioned that it's hard to graduate with a degree in something and then wind up realizing it's not for you.
it's not.
You did that,
I did it.
and
Yeah,
it worked
and
out
it's like
okay.
I could talk business and marketing and advertising and economics and statistics all day. You know, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like Danielle would also say, "You wouldn't make it to lunch in my world." You know?
All
Yeah,
right. Well, I have taken up too much of your time already. And I already told you that the last question is if you were being handed an Oscar or some award, and you could thank anybody from Oswego who kind of did something for you, made you the person that you are today, students or professors, who would you want to thank and
yeah.
why?
There's a reason why he's the only professor whose name I remember. Is Dr. Molinari, who was a guy who got us. He had the same crew of guy. I had him all senior year. He let me teach class one day, actually. That always stayed with me. He liked us. He thought we were knuckleheads, but he liked us. But he didn't, that was like, nah, that ain't good enough. And it was kind of appreciative to sit there and say, hey, this guy's, we're not a conveyor belt of students to this guy. He's genuinely saying, nah, fix this. I mean, he genuinely wanted us to have to really know the subject matter, attention to detail, and he was a hard nosed he was a hard grader, and he demanded a lot, but I knew he liked us, and yeah, he always I had in the 2000s I had email back and forth with him about different stuff and stuff. I had actually had a conversation with him about the importance of interning. And I was like, I'm like, you got to tell your students they got to get internships because you got to come out with a resume. What I mean? I couldn't just have burned dairy on my resume from Oswego. You know what I mean? You know,
Although that would have gotten you into the fire department, the FDNY.
wandering around the streets as a drifter would have gotten me into the FDNY.
Well, if people want to reach out and find out more about you, I know we've got the website for the Danielle Currid Foundation. We'll put the link right there. And also, you're on Instagram with the foundation. And I imagine you're on LinkedIn as well.
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right. And it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for
Same here.
making the time. People don't understand that parents are really busy too, you know?
Um, God bless the single parents, because I got to retire. Somewhere right now, there's some woman going to three jobs, trying to figure out what next week's daycare is going to be, childcare is going to be. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot trying to I got to raise these humans. I got to.
Well, if you'd like to reach out to us and give us some great guest ideas, you can find us on Facebook and on LinkedIn, or you can email us at alumni@oswego.edu. We're always looking for ideas from our over 95,000 alumni.